Hi, this is Dave Bazar. I'm here with Blake Cuadros and Mike Fenn. We're going to go over the August shipment report that came out today. But first, we wanted to recognize that today is September 11th, fairly important date, at least in our history. Blake?
Yeah, so this is the 19th anniversary of 9/11, and I think to bring some importance to it, it's really about those first responders out there doing what they do on a daily basis.
And I think it really strikes home now because of the fires that we're experiencing in our own backyard here and the people that we know that are affected by it. And
everybody's out on that front line fighting for safe structures and all the rest.
And still our military that is out on the front line as well every day and have been for 19 years.
Not to mention COVID people, too.
Right.
And all the nurses and doctors. So
right.
So our hats off to all of them, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Okay, shall we get to the shipment numbers?
So this is the first position report of the 2020 crop. The first thing that we'll look at is the carryover or the carry-in now. So on the first page, you'll see that we have a 450 million pound carry-in. They make an adjustment on this first page for loss and exempt, which is basically insect damage in edibles. This year we have a loss and exempt of 1.8%. down there on the right, which you'll see is the lowest we've seen in the last 5 years. So I think that is a big kudos to growers out there doing what they do in the field.
And so what does that adjust number to finally then from before the loss and exempt?
So it was 446 million before the loss and exempt. They basically take off the 1.8% to then bring you to a 450 million pound adjusted carry-in. And that, in relation to last year's shipments, is about a 19% stockout ratio, which is usually pretty bullish.
Okay. I know we always get questions about, hey, that carry-in, what is it? Well, really, it's just everything that wasn't sold starting August. Sorry, you're right.
It wasn't shipped. That portion
starting
of
August 1st.
Yeah, there's that's
so it's what's been moving out in August. It's probably going to be a big part of what we're going to look at next, right?
Right.
Okay.
So the next page that we're going to look at here is going to be really the numbers of really the meat and potatoes of the first shipment report of 2020. So the first thing that we always like to look at is those shipments. So for the month of August this year, we've shipped 193 million pounds compared to last year's 147 million pounds. So just about 30%, just over 30% up for this month. And that is pretty dramatic.
Yes.
I mean, the last record that was set for August was I believe it was 2016, and it was 170 million pounds shipped. So this is quite a feat for the industry. And I think to Dave's point earlier, I think a large majority of that 193 million is going to be 2019 crop that shipped in that period. Last year, you didn't really have a very large carrying. You had 319 million pounds.
Right.
So you didn't really have the supply there to be able to, have a good start to the crop year. I think the other piece that, we all then start to hone in on is those commitments. So, there's 1,055 million pounds that have been sold.
So commitments is, again, everything that has been sold but not shipped yet.
Right.
So it represents all the future sales, everything that's on your books that you're ready to go.
Right. That will be shipping at any given point for this 2020 crop year.
And how does that look compared to things in the past? Right? Is that a big number? Or?
It's huge. I mean, you're 88% up.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, the domestic commitments are up 89%.
And so when you say 88% up from
last year.
Okay.
Last year's commitment. So there is a lot of sales on the books here. So the industry has been pretty active up until this point in time. Last year, you were about 25% sold. Okay. Right now, assuming a 3 billion pound crop, we're about 36% sold.
Okay. And so that bodes well for coming months, right? So first you sell it, then you ship it.
Right.
Right. So what else would you read from that number?
I think confidence. I think it exudes confidence for both sides, really. I think for the sellers and for the buyers. Everybody's been active. These prices are obviously working for people.
We might not like it, but they did, so they bought a lot.
Yes.
We knew we had to participate, so we've sold a lot.
Yep.
That hopefully stimulates, again, bigger shipments down the road. Away we go. Huh?
Yeah, and I think right now we're kind of living position report to position report. You're at the beginning of the crop year. You're trying to set trends, right? So we're now looking for September. Okay, we all want now September to be big. I think with those commitments that are on the book, probably a pretty good chance that you're going to have a healthy September.
And one feeds into the other, right? So if you went back to our last report, July, that finished really good, right? So it predicted, hey, August is going to be good, hopefully September.
Right.
So you've now had 2 months of wow kind of growth, right?
Yes, yes.
So to put that 30% in sort of perspective, right? The crop at the $3 billion is predicted to be 18% up.
Right.
You already said our carry-in was a relatively bullish number compared to the previous shipments. You're now shipping, albeit 1 month, 30% up, right? So,
and I think if you see that your September performs accordingly to that increase in crop size,
right,
then I think all of a sudden you start to see a little bit more of confidence built in. And again, to the point earlier, you have the commitments there to do it. And I still think you have markets that are going to participate in this. I still think you see an active China. I think there's still some of the other export markets that have, leading up to this, been inquiring, been bidding you, for nearby positions as well.
And if you dug into, so let's stop a little bit and look at the 193 million that got shipped.
Yeah.
Can you analyze a little bit of where that went?
So a lot of it went export. So the export markets were up 50%, where the domestic market was up about 5.5% for the month. And if you dive into that export market a little bit more, India is one that's been strikingly large.
So there's your in shell.
Yes. So they took 40 million pounds this year compared to 19.5 million pounds last year.
Thank you.
Pretty substantial.
Yes. So up double. Some of the European countries, Germany, France, Netherlands, all up 40% or more.
So before we get too carried away with that, right? Is there any sort of, and I know nobody likes to hear any negative, but is there a possibly, how could that be viewed negatively, I guess?
When somebody sells something, somebody buys something, right? So those sales, that 1,055 million pounds of sales out there, is covered for somebody. So somebody has bought those needs.
Yeah.
Now, are they needs for nearby? Are there needs for further out? I mean, that's all to be determined.
Yeah.
So just as we feel confident with, we're in a good sold position here, I think a buyer could view it the same way. Hey, look, I feel comfortable as well. I've been buying at these lower levels. I don't really mind if it goes up because my average is lower than the market price today.
Yeah.
Or if it's not lower than the average market price today, it's at least getting closer to my average. So I don't probably feel that bad.
And Blake, I mean, talk about that sort of aspect if you're a grower, right? Because it must mean you've sold something too. Huh?
So I would say, you mentioned the industry has sold a pretty healthy percentage going forward. I think as a grower participating in it, you've looked at booking some of your needs and probably have participated early on. And I think with this shipment report, it just encourages more of that going forward. The pricing has continually moved over the last 30 days, and I'll let you touch on that a little bit more. But from a grower's perspective, you would say, why wouldn't I want to contribute to these levels as they are firming?
And if I've sold a little bit, I have some cash flow coming in. Perhaps I can take a little bit of a breather as well.
Yes.
I mean, so it's a fair fight, I guess. Huh?
Yep.
So, okay. What other numbers we want to talk about here real quick?
How about the market pricing? I mean, what can we expect based on what we just saw today?
I mean, that's a little bit of a hard question to answer, but I think at a minimum 5 cents.
Yep.
Up.
Yeah.
I think hard to say you're going to get 20 cents out of this.
Yeah.
I think again, that large in-shell number that went into India, I think that's going to put them on the sideline for a little while until they can have confidence that they can digest it a little bit more.
And that's a tough question, right? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to say, oh, it's going to be this or that, because who knows? But you're going to push against it and try to drive it up.
And I think the buyers expect 5 to 10.
And I think you believe it'll develop with some patience as well, right?
Yeah, as
You're-
a buyer, I think the only thing I would be doing to hedge against that is wait. Don't come in and start charging into
can.
this. If you can wait, then you wait,
Yeah.
and you see what the sellers end up doing. Do they sweat it out, and do they give up a little bit for you? You know,
And I guess 5 or 10 cents shouldn't be a negative connotation from the buyer's perspective at the levels that we're
No,
talking about.
no.
Still historically low
Yes.
levels, right? They haven't seen these numbers. I keep saying 10 years. I think that's still probably correct.
Yeah.
These are at levels that are, wow, cheap.
Yes.
You know, so from a buying standpoint, they should feel good about it.
Yeah.
From a selling standpoint, not so much. Hopefully it's made up with the crop size.
Right.
So,
I mean, we were having a conversation with one of the growers yesterday, and he said with the yields he's getting and with the prices that we had advertised, he was going to make the same amount of money as last year.
yeah.
So I think you start to see that happen. I think people start to feel better about their situation.
So that guy must be producing 4,500 pounds.
He's got some good yields.
So you need those.
Yes.
All right. We probably should wrap it up, huh? So summary would be a very bullish report.
Great start to the
shipments
2020
are
crop.
great. So let's keep going and hopefully have a safe harvest. Dave Bazar out.
Blake Cuadros out.
Thank you very much.